Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. If you're the parent of an estranged adult child, the most important question you can ask yourself is, what caused my child to choose cutoff over continued contact? Asking this question could mean the difference between years of pain and frustration and solid reconciliation. So I can't stress enough how much it matters to dig into this question of cause. And even though this is the most important question for parents to consider, there are two hurdles that tend to get in the way of really making the most of this crucial exercise. On today's episode, I'll tell you what those hurdles are so you can recognize them, and of course, I'll make suggestions on how to get past them so you can have the best chance of reconciliation in the shortest possible time. So why don't parents tend to spend enough time looking at what caused the estrangement? The first hurdle that I see a lot is being in a hurry. Most parents I talk to are so eager to get their children back that they end up putting the cart before the horse. They want to know how to manage the estrangement in such a way that their child might be persuaded to get back into contact as soon as possible. So their questions are all about whether it's okay to send a little note just to say hello, or they want to know how to make the most of a birthday greeting that they plan to send. Should they include an apology, or should they send gifts to grandchildren during an estrangement? These are all parts of the terrain that do need to be navigated, but without a map, you're just going in circles. There's no overarching plan to address the problem that created this whole unfortunate state of affairs. It's just being in a hurry to get going on a trip and leaving the map at home. And that comes from being in a hurry, which is totally natural when the stakes are high and the outcome is uncertain. Most parents I talk to are worried that if this isn't resolved soon, the estrangement will become entrenched. Or maybe if enough time goes by without contact, that child may even forget them. These are understandable fears, but they are just fears. They're not based on facts. So if you feel in a hurry and you're going off in all directions, feeling a little bit desperate and fearful, give yourself a hug and tell yourself it's okay to pause and take some time to rest after the shock of realizing you're estranged from your child. Take some time to breathe and to think about how to respond to the situation. You have time to work on this. Many estranged adult children want some time, no matter what their parents do, so you do have time to construct a thoughtful, meaningful, and heart-based plan to repair whatever went wrong to the best of your ability. Trust that the time you take to investigate the answer to that question, what caused this, is a very good investment in your relationship. It's never too late to initiate a solid repair, so do take your time and really think about what caused your child's estrangement. And that might lead you straight into the second hurdle, which is parental shame. When parents look to answer that question, what caused this estrangement, they tend to look everywhere but here, as it were. That is, parents are much more likely than their estranged adult children to name third parties, divorces, mental illness in the child, and other external circumstances as the reasons for their child's behavior. But in contrast, if you ask the adult children themselves, which researchers have repeatedly done, they usually point to specific behaviors in the parent that they can no longer tolerate. Which means, if the parent wants to know why the child has separated from him and address the real issues, he needs to be able to tolerate information that feels like criticism and accusation. Now, there's a wide range of responses to criticism, from outrage to meek acceptance. Most of us fall somewhere in the middle. When we receive criticism, we may first get defensive, but then we go home and we think about it. Maybe we ask our spouse, am I controlling? Am I self-centered? Or whatever it is. And we might or might not learn something about ourselves and start to work on changing and becoming more of the person we want to be. But when the person pointing a critical finger at a parent is her own child, there's an extra bite to that criticism. It feels like they're saying not just, you don't understand me, but actually, you're a bad parent. And in our society, there is a ton of stigma and shame associated with the idea of not being a good enough parent. So most parents will automatically defend against anything that feels damning to them as a parent, just as a protection against an avalanche of unnecessary shame. It's no wonder this is a hurdle. If your child is keeping her distance because she has complaints about you, she's triggering a huge store of shame and bad feelings that may overwhelm and paralyze you. This kind of shame that parents are so quick to is among the worst feelings that anyone can experience. So it's hard to consider complaints about your behavior and see them for what they are. Information about what your child has experienced that led to their need for distance. It's not actually the condemnation of you as a person that it may feel like. If unnecessary shame is keeping you from learning and understanding what exactly is hurting your child enough not to participate in a relationship with you, well, then your hands are tied. You can never address the problem because there's a part of you that refuses to acknowledge the problem exists. And that part will scour the world looking for other reasons to point to, which feel better to you, but don't do anything to address the real issues in the eyes of your child. It's sort of like looking for your keys under a street light, even though that's not where you dropped them, simply because the light is better there. Parents look for the causes of estrangement anywhere but in their relationship with their child, because it hurts so much less to believe that it has nothing or little to do with what goes on just between the two of you. In some parents, this completely unnecessary shame will create so much resistance that they will choose to denigrate their child and even let them go, rather than confront and work through that shame. And I think that is absolutely tragic, both for the parent and for their child, who may want very much to be close and have a relationship if only some things could change. So if you're having trouble turning your mind to what it is in your relationship with your child that's causing trouble, realize first of all that you're not alone. Seeking answers so close to home is not for the faint of heart. And also realize that complaints about your behavior do not make you a terrible parent, let alone condemn you as a generally bad or worthless person. Don't generalize criticism. If your child complains that you're too controlling, for example, don't leap to the conclusion that you failed as a parent. It's normal to have regrets, of course. Every good parent has them. but avoid unnecessary and generalized shame. It will ruin your ability to make the repairs that might be needed to enjoy a better relationship in the future. Stick to the particulars of any complaint from your child. Take it as information and realize that, of course, as a human being, you're not perfect and you don't have to be in order to be acceptable. Dig into the information you receive. What exactly are the types of language or behavior that's hurtful to your child? Think about how you can still be you without negatively affecting your child's sense of well-being. Assume there's a way you can be yourself and also make reasonable accommodations so that your child can feel comfortable and enjoy the relationship as much as you do. People who are mentally and emotionally healthy continue to learn and grow throughout their lives. The process is sometimes painful, but it's the only way we can become the people we're capable of being. But you cannot use the current impasse to learn and grow without finding the courage to open yourself up to complaints and the criticism that they seem to imply. As much as it stings to be on the receiving end of information from your adult child about why he's estranged, this is the information you need in order to heal the relationship and end the estrangement. Hearing and responding to criticism does not mean that you are bad and your child is perfect. You may have complaints about your child, but it's not you who wants the distance. And so those complaints are not relevant in this process for your purposes. If you need to make some adjustments in order for you both to feel good about your relationship, that doesn't have to be devastating to your self-worth. Be that lifelong learner who is willing and open to evolving over time. Listening to complaints and making changes isn't proof that you were a bad parent. On the contrary, it's part of being a good parent and a great role model. Asking the central question, what caused this, is something that can't be skipped if you want to find a permanent, solid solution to the problem of estrangement. Avoid those twin hurdles of being in a hurry to do things before you understand the underlying causes, and getting paralyzed by the toxic shame that will come up when your child offers the information you need about the real causes of the current problem from his or her point of view. Get support if you need it. You don't have to do this alone. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.